Good evening. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler, and today I first of all want to wish everybody a happy winter solstice. It's the first day of winter today across the northern hemisphere. So happy winter solstice. There's our happy snowman. And let's get right to the presentation. Tonight I'm titling this Winter Strikes Back. Notice the Star Wars theme there? The Empire Strikes Back. Now that we're in winter time, it's going to start feeling like winter here in the longer range. So let's get right into it. So the current analysis as of 21 December, what we have going on is a ridge, upper level ridge that's parked off the Pacific Northwest, the west coast of the U.S. in general, then a long wave trough, into the southwestern area of the U.S., and then we have a ridge, again, a slight ridge building across the central U.S. towards the East Coast. As far as temperatures, on the right-hand side here at 5,000 feet, the coldest temperatures remain bottled up into Canada. So the northern tier of the states, they are feeling a little bit of the cold, but most of the cold remains north of the U.S.-Canadian border. For Southeast Virginia, we are looking at a colder day today. We did experience a colder day with temperatures generally up around 50 degrees for a high as basically the wind shifted more out of the northeast today and brought in chillier air to the area. Now looking ahead tomorrow for the forecast, for the 22nd of December, we have the trough deepening now over the southwestern U.S. As this trough deepens, what goes down must also come up, an equal and opposite reaction. So as the trough deepens, the downstream ridge will build. And so as a result, tomorrow we're expecting milder conditions for Southeast Virginia with high temperatures, generally about 60 to 62 degrees tomorrow, as the winds shift around, become southerly at the ground level, at the surface. The cold air, denoted by the oranges, the magentas, the purple colors, remains well to the north again of the United States as a whole. Now you will notice this upper level ridge that continues to build. Over time you're going to notice an amplification again in the long wave pattern or the jet stream. And just keep in mind that whenever you have these U-shaped patterns, these are troughs, and generally the cold air will go into the base of the troughs and come down from Canada. While if you have a ridge, upside down shaped U, you generally get milder air that comes up from the lower latitudes, the tropical latitudes, towards the north. Looking ahead now on the forecast for Saturday, this Saturday, the 23rd of December, what we're looking at is the trough has moved eastward from the 22nd to the 23rd. It's slid over towards the central United States. And as it's done so, you got this large high amplitude ridge, a high amplitude ridge generally over into Alaska, and this trough into the central U.S. And as this amplitude occurs, this amplification of the pattern occurs, the downstream ridge, which is going to be over the eastern United States, over the eastern seaboard, that is going to build. The ridge is going to build, which generally means we are going to have even milder, warmer temperatures. The winds generally at 30,000 feet are blowing directly from the southwest, and they're doing so all the way down to the ground level. And when that happens, you get near record warmth when the ridge builds to this extent. So we could actually see near record highs on Saturday the 23rd here within a couple days across Southeast Virginia. Highs as high as 70 degrees or possibly low 70s during the day on Saturday. Now, as this trough deepens into the central U.S., notice the coldest air by the orange colors and the maroon colors and the purples, that starts moving down into the lower 48, into the base of this long wave trough. The deeper the trough gets, the colder the air mass that will come down out of Canada. Moving on now to the forecast for valid Christmas Eve. For those of you here in Southeast Virginia that have plans, let's say you're traveling out of the area, I'm going to show you a couple of these charts, and then I'm going to show you the surface analysis as well to show you what's going on across the United States as a whole. But look at the amplification on Christmas Eve at 30,000 feet. The polar front jet stream, it is highly amplified with pockets of energy denoted by the yellow. That shows you wind speeds of 130 to 140 knots. So a lot of energy is rotating and pivoting through the base of the long wave trough here. The trough axis on Christmas Eve is now over the Midwestern U.S. You'll notice that the ridge is still built pretty good into Western Canada. And so you get this cold air mass. The coldest air mass starts spilling southward even further by Christmas Eve. Over Southeast Virginia, Christmas Eve is going to be a transition day where we're going to see a strong cold front move through the area. Behind the front, we expect temperatures to cool off. So we have a strong upper level trough that's going to rotate through Southeast Virginia Christmas Eve day with some rain showers, and then after the front passes, we can expect winds to shift and colder temperatures to begin advecting into the area. Here is the surface analysis for Christmas Eve day. The green line here indicates precipitation, which is associated with the frontal boundary. So the boundary, this is at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Christmas Eve day. We have a cold front that is transiting and passing through Southeast Virginia, heading offshore, generally by 12 local Eastern Time. This front will move through, and then these blue lines indicate areas of lower thickness values, which indicates colder air advecting into the area on northwesterly winds. So overall across the U.S., if you have travel plans for Christmas Eve, a few scattered showers from southern Georgia, South Carolina offshore off of New England, a couple pockets of scattered snow showers, but nothing major across the United States as a whole, as we have a strong high pressure system situated over northwestern Wyoming. Most of the moisture stays offshore off of Seattle. So again, it looks like a very good travel day on Christmas Eve if you have any intention to leave Southeast Virginia, travel elsewhere. Now on Christmas Day, we have a trough. This amplification of the jet stream continues. We have a deep trough. That again, in the base of the trough is going to allow the coldest air to come pivoting down southeastward towards the lower 48. So Christmas Day is going to be a much colder day. It will be dry for Southeast Virginia. Here is the surface chart. We have 1,032 millibar high situated over northern Mississippi. Clockwise flow around the high brings in northwesterly winds, and they will be rather gusty, generally 15 to 20 miles per hour, higher gusts possible on Christmas Day. And one area on Christmas Day that's going to be more troublesome is going to be New England, where there's going to be a major snowstorm. What happens is a piece of energy from the north comes through and across Pennsylvania and New York State and pivots offshore, and then you have this moisture out ahead of the frontal boundary which passes through Southeast Virginia, and that's going to deepen or intensify this area of low pressure over the North Atlantic, and it's going to pivot moisture back into the colder air over Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York State, and even up into Maine, down East Maine, which is going to result in a pretty good snowstorm for Christmas Day. So if you are dreaming of a white Christmas, it will not happen here in Southeast Virginia this year, but if you went up and traveled to New England, New York State, New Hampshire, Vermont, again, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, you have the prospects, a really good prospect of a white Christmas. All right, now we're going to take a look at New Year's Eve and take a sneak peek at New Year's Eve. So the amplification of the jet stream continues. A deep trough, deep long wave trough into the central and eastern U.S. So we still have a lot of cold air that is pivoting down into especially the northern plains and midwestern states. Really cold air pivoting down. There is a ridge over the western Atlantic, but it's actually, we're going to have a cold frontal boundary, another Arctic shot of air poised to swing into Southeast Virginia on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. We look at New Year's Day, Arctic outbreak, here we go. So the strong frontal boundary is generally to the south of Southeast Virginia, a strong 1,043 millibar high coming down from Canada. That is situated over South Dakota. Clockwise winds around the high, bringing strong cold air advection from Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania into Virginia, Kentucky. All these areas are going to be much colder for New Year's Day. So we do expect a little bit of moisture associated with the frontal passage on New Year's Eve. At this time, it looks like there'll be some scattered rain showers across Southeast Virginia for all your New Year's Eve plans. But again, that's subject to change. We're still a significant amount of time out from that time, from that date, so we'll keep an eye on it for you. Here are my final thoughts of the video. All right, it's a very interesting pattern. I talked about this on my last video. If the amplification of the jet stream, the placement of the long wave troughs and the upper level ridges, if those change ever so slightly, we could be looking at a colder or a warmer forecast for that matter. So right now, this is what we're thinking here at Spot On Weather. Very mild for Friday, the 22nd of December, tomorrow, and then Saturday, the 23rd of December, even warmer. So 60 to 62 degrees for a high on Friday as the winds shift around to the south. And then as high as 70 to 72 degrees on Saturday, the 23rd. It's not going to feel a lot like Christmas on Saturday with much milder conditions on stronger southwest winds. Now, we do expect a strong cold front to move through on Christmas Eve day, and this should occur generally before 12 local time. So we do expect a brief period of rain showers early in the day in association with the frontal passage. Temperatures will then drop off after frontal passage, and right now we're looking at a cold and dry Christmas day on tap with highs generally in the mid to upper 40s and lows dropping into the lower 30s Christmas night into the morning of the 26th. It's going to remain cold as the jet stream directs the Arctic air into the mid-Atlantic anywhere from the 27th of December all the way through 5 January into the new year. Now, we could see a brief warm-up the last week of December for a couple days, but this warm-up is expected to be short-lived. Forecast guidance has really been all over the place. The American GFS model had a major switch earlier today from the 060 to the 12Z. We'll keep an eye on things. European, generally we're on that border of really cold Arctic air and then some of the milder subtropical air trying to come up. But again, we'll keep an eye on things here at Spot On Weather. The pattern will be ideal. I will point this out, and this is what has us concerned. The pattern is really ideal with a deep trough in the eastern U.S. for a winter storm threats. Multiple winter storms are possible. They're on the table between 28 December and 5 January. Okay, whenever you get the deep troughs, okay, whenever you get these deep long wave troughs into the eastern U.S., and then you have a lot of upper level lift along the leading edge of these long wave troughs. And you have a strong temperature gradient because, as I mentioned the other day about the Gulf Stream current, that adds to the temperature contrast and that feeds and derives energy from the ocean surface for storms. So we're really concerned about that. The European, American GFS, and Canadian, they're all starting to come into agreement on a first storm between the 28th and the 30th of December, and then maybe a second storm around the 4th, the 5th of January. And this could be our first major winter storm for the Mid-Atlantic region, and we are expecting some major winter impacts to occur with these possible storm systems. So stay here with Spot On Weather. We could see some snow or wintry precip nearby. The pattern is ripe. It's ideal for winter storm threats. And that wraps everything up tonight. From Spot On Weather, remember, if we're not spot on, we're not doing it right. Have a great Thursday evening, everybody. Happy holidays.